Hello everybody and welcome back to our live coding session. And today of course we'll continue to work on our application that we kind of built during the last, I guess, 8 streams. So we will just continue to work on it. Right now this is the application is, as you might know, it's already deployed in an Azure, Microsoft Azure Web Apps. So well, you can already use it. And of course, the way this works, let's just go to take a link. Let's, for instance, take this one. That's from my personal blog, and you can just simply go here, paste it, link it, and then you get a link back. That's a short URL. And of course, then you can, for instance, go wherever you want, or paste it in an email or on social media or things like that, and you get instead redirected to this long link. So it's exactly how this URL shortener service is supposed to work. And for the last stream, I guess we started to look into this idea that we also want to have users in this application. So my idea is the following. Right now, everybody can use this application like it is right now. So you just paste a long URL, you click on the link me button, and you get a short URL, which we call a link, you get it back. And yeah, this works fine. But what I want to do with this app is to be able to also have users. And the idea of having users is that, well, if you want to have some more extended features, like for instance, the ability to use custom tokens or custom rings. So the idea what comes after that slash, because I guess it might be useful to be able to kind of personalize it. So that would be very, very useful. And maybe of course also display things like, I don't know, how many times your links were clicked from which countries and things like that. And yeah, what we do right now is that we already kind of track the requests for the short URLs that come. And right now we see that in the last 24 hours, we had 30 links were clicked, or 30 shortened links were clicked. And that's kind of, I would say, nice. Right now it's 32. So yeah, that's kind of cool, I would say. And of course, for all these requests, we get some more sophisticated information, like, I don't know, extracting information from the user agent, like from what device they come and things like that. For now, we don't do anything with that information, but that could be some points that we can expose to users, for instance, if they want to see from, I don't know, from which browsers or from which devices were their links clicked the most. We can probably display that. And similarly, there is another thing that we can do. It is not implemented yet, but we will for sure implement it at a certain point. And this is the idea about extracting geographical information from the IP from which the request comes. And yeah, that's mostly the way that also, or well, as a very big picture, that's also the way that actually Google Analytics works. And that's something that we will surely implement just a little bit later. Then one other important thing is that for these requests is that when I noticed that we actually have a lot of requests that are coming actually from bots. So they are, from my point of view, not real requests. For instance, if you take a shortened URL and if you paste it in Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn, wherever, basically what happens is they of course try to access that URL for getting the preview information and things like that. And those requests are actually counted as coming from bots. So this is why what we have implemented, I guess, 2 streams ago was an Azure function that, where is it? Where is this Azure? It should be in the infrastructure. We have this very, very, very small Azure function that's triggered on a timer, and right now it actually runs every hour. And it looks at requests, for instance, and and all the requests that are coming from bots are actually deleted. And this function is also deployed to Azure and it's actually working. So all the requests that you see here are more or less real requests, except if some bot requests came in from the last time that this Azure function was executed. And we can also go to Azure, portal.azure.com, and just maybe look into the execution count of that and to see exactly when it was executed. And I have a resource group for that, and I had to put it in this RankMe02 resource group. And here I have this where is it function app. And here we have the basic analytics for this app. And we can see actually the requests that came in. I guess if we go on logs or things or similar logs, get. I don't know, this will query for maybe metrics, I guess. Okay, so we have what metric do we want to see here? Actually, we want a metric, I don't know, app service standard metric, every key response time. What I want to see is actually how many executions it had. And right now, I don't see this idea of executions. Let's try maybe with requests. Of course, there's no request because this is last 24 hours. Okay. So I'm not sure exactly here where I want to check this, but if we go here on the overview, I think it's fairly clear. Here, this is the function execution counts, and here we go to this metric, and here I guess we can put it to 24 hours, and you can see that it actually gets executed every single hour. This means that our database gets cleaned up by this function each hour, and all the requests that are actually coming from bots are deleted from the database, so they are not displayed here anymore. So I guess that's a fairly nice setup what we have so far. And today what I would like to do is continue to work on this. Maybe try to further kind of work on this idea of having a user. And for that, what we have done so far, let's go back to the domain. So we have implemented this user class, and here we set the is verified by default on true, because we will probably need to implement a way to for users to verify their accounts via email, as it happens in most cases. So this will be a standard part of the sign up process, but for now we don't have it defined, so I put this is verified as default on true. However, the whole concept is that we have here some basic properties for a user, but then we have this concept of user profile. And the way I created this idea of user profile, or split the idea of user and user profile, is that we might want to work with other type of profiles. Maybe, I don't know, if we will have something like subscription, then we'll be have maybe a profile per subscription or things like that. So the whole idea is to let this kind of open to be extended the way it is needed, or similar to that. So this is why we have this distinction, and the user only holds property that are actually needed for this identity and access management process, like signing up, logging in, logging out, and things like that, verifying password. And all the, let's say, application related stuff will be handled in this user profile class, where we have actually here this navigation property to the user, so that we can also see what's the email address of the user, username, password, and things like that here on this profile if needed. And then here we just have first name, last name, and an I collection of short URLs, because each user will probably shorten URLs. So we will need to kind of group the URLs that were shortened by a specific user. So that's the setup that we have right now. And what I would like to do today, sorry, I just needed to drink a little bit. So what I would like to do today is kind of work further with this idea. And what I want to do are basically two things for now. The one is that I want to create a domain utility that would be responsible for hashing passwords and of course also verifying password hashes. So this will be probably needed when users try to log in. And the way I see it, this would be a very, very pointed domain utility. So I don't think we need to really expose it via an interface, because it's something that's, I don't know, a part of the core domain, I would say. And if I want to unit test this password or how this password hashing works, then I could totally do this with unit tests. So it's no need to mock things or similar stuff. So yeah, let's get started with it, and then probably I want to create a user repository. The user repository will contain actually different type of behavior or database rated behavior to both, I would say, users and user profiles. So yeah, let's get started with this. So let's create a new folder here. Let's see, am I in the right place? Yes, I'm in the right place here. We are on the domain, and let's a new folder, and yeah, let's call this utils, because I totally see this as a utility. Okay, so let's try now to go one step further, and let's add a new class here, and our class will be called password hasher. Very, very simple. Now to hash passwords, what we'll need is actually a way to implement the hashing itself. And it would really be stupid to try to implement this by myself, because there are very well defined ways to hash passwords and how to use them. But and those are also exposed via different APIs. And the cool thing is that we can install a package, of course. For everything we have a package. But yeah, that's, in my point of view, when it comes to cryptography, that's something that we should never do this by ourselves, except if we are really cryptography experts and know exactly how to do things and why to do them. But now let's manage Nougat packages, because there is a Nougat package in ASP.NET Core, Microsoft.ASP .NET Core cryptography key derivation, and this one actually contains, I wonder, should I install the latest? Right now all my projects here are based on .NET Core 3.1, because yeah, I started them before .NET 5. So I guess I'll keep consistent and install here also the 3.1 or the latest 3.1 version. And let's click on I accept. Okay. Yeah, if you wonder why we have an error here, that's something what Visual Studio usually does. I don't know exactly why, but sometimes it really doesn't want to recognize different things that we have in Blazor components. I am fairly sure that the application works. So if I start it, the application, I'm sure that it works. So yeah, that's kind of like I don't know, a thing that I don't really like about how Visual Studio is playing together with Blazor, because a lot of times you get misleading information that you might have an error, but it's just Visual Studio that can't really reference different type of things, and yeah, then you have this problem. But as you see, the application works, and everything is fine. Okay, so yeah, let's go back to our password hasher and using ASP Microsoft, using Microsoft ASP.NET Core, cryptography, key derivation. So this would be the namespace that we need. And right now, let's think about this class. So the way I see it, what's the problem? Okay, I forgot the semicolon, of course. So the way I see it, when we create a new password hasher instance, and probably the repository will use this class, I guess in order for the password hasher to work, especially when it comes to verifying passwords, or if passwords match, I think that it would be nice for the password hasher to get some context right when it is initiated, and the context here would be all the information that we have about the user. So I will create a field that would be read-only, and it would be of type user, of course. Okay, and of course I'll probably need to add a using, for the models. And then when we construct a new instance of it, what I want to do is I really want to get a user object. And this is actually how my password hasher gets some context about what it actually needs to do. And then I guess for now in our password hasher we will need actually two methods. A public, let's return a string, hash password, and we'll need to get the password. Basically this method probably will be called, I don't know, for instance, when the user wants to change his or her password, or when we really need to set a new password, then probably this information will come from the user one way or the other, and we will have to hash it before writing it in the database. So this would be the way to hash, and we'll use the PBKDF2 algorithm for hashing, which according to most of the documentations that I have read seems to be today the most secure implementation. And we'll also use a salt value. That's kind of like a standard way to hash passwords. And by all means, I'm really not an expert at all on security and cryptography. So this is why I really just like to use the already established algorithms in order to to achieve this type of stuff. So here then the first or the very first thing that we will do is to define, okay, what is the salt value? And the salt value per definition should be actually a value that should usually be 60 bytes long, that we will use basically in our key derivation phase to hash the password in a way that it's really very hard to decode, or actually or virtually impossible. And the idea is that in order to be able to reconstruct the passwords afterward, the idea is that the salt should actually be unique for each instance where you need to generate or to hash a password. So this is the first requirement. So this means that we will have to use different salts for different users. But on the other hand, we would need to know exactly what that specific salt would be. And there are different ways to do or to go about this. One of them is actually to include the salt in the password itself. And when we get actually the base64 string, we know that up until a certain point we have the salt, and afterwards we have actually the real password. So this would be one way to go, but in this case, once again, for each user you would be able to, or we would need to be able to reconstruct this. So we would need to save the salt somewhere, or take it from somewhere where we know that it will always be the same. And this is why what I usually do in these cases, because in my opinion, at least for this type of application I'm building right now, I guess it should be secure enough, is for instance to use the ID of the user. And user ID, and we'll transform it to byte array, because this is how we will need to provide this salt to the key derivation algorithm that will actually do the hash. So the idea is that each user will have, of course, a randomly generated GUID, and this is the reason why on users I always like to make the ID of type GUID, because you never know when you might need a 16 bytes value that is consistent for a certain record, that is random, that is really hard to guess, to be used in cryptography. And that's why I use GUIDs usually for users. So let's go back to our password hasher right now. So the next thing that we would need to do is actually to create the hash password. And here let's say var hash equals, and here we can use the key derivation. And here we see that we have this algorithm tbkdf2, and here of course we have to provide different things to this algorithm. First of all, we would have to provide, of course, the password that needs to be hashed. I would have to provide the salt, which should be a byte array. Then what exact algorithm to be used? Key derivation prf, and here let's use this one. Then what we would need to use is another variable of type int that would be, or would define the iteration count on how, or how this hash is being calculating through how many iterations. And yeah, let's give it here a value. I don't know, I saw that usually it's 10,000, but here you can actually give whatever value you would like, and then you would have to specify the number of bytes requested, and here we say 32, and this would actually create this this hash, which will be of course of type byte array. You discard, okay, I don't want to discard that. So what we want to do here, maybe we just want to return the base64 version of this. So we just return convert to base 64 string. That should be it, and we provide this byte array. Yeah, and this should pretty much do it for hashing the password. And then we would also need a method here, public string verify password match, I guess. And here of course we would need a string password to verify. Okay, so here once again we need a salt user dot user ID, and of course to byte array. And then what we need to do is actually to hash this password to verify that comes in. So let's just reuse this. Okay, here is password to verify. There should be a typo here somewhere, or okay, no, there's no typo. So a password to verify, and actually the rest stays the same. And here in this case, actually we don't return a string, but we return a bool. So we say if the password, if the provided password matches with the user password. So we just do this, convert dot to base 64 string, and here we have hashed, sorry, not like that, but this one equals user dot password, because the user's password would contain the current base64 version of the hash that was calculated when the password was set. And basically if those hashes match, since we did hash them exactly the same way and using the exact same salt, I guess that this should actually do it, I would say. Okay, so let me just briefly check something. Sorry for the break. But things, I just wanted to check if my stream is working both on Twitch and on YouTube, because I was not sure about that, but it actually seems that is actually working on both platforms. So yeah, I stream actually to Restream.io, and then they actually restream to both my Twitch and my YouTube page. Okay, so right now we have this password hasher, which means that we would be able to hash passwords and verify if a password hashes match. Which is actually kind of more or less what we needed right now. So let's go then one step further. I guess for now we don't use a repository, because the only thing that we actually do right now is just using the DB context to get the to actually verify if we have a short URL when a request comes in, and then to retrieve the information about the long URL that corresponds to the short one and do the redirect. And then we have, or we just use it once again here to count and calculate here how many links we clicked today and how many links were shortened in total. And yeah, but that's very much about it. There's no big logic and things like that. So that's why until now I didn't see fit to actually use a repository here. But when it comes to users, here we'll probably have some specific behavior. And what I'm thinking about right now is actually that very simple stuff like logging in, logging out, signing out, or signing up for the application and things like that. And probably we'll have some more user related, very specific logic that, for instance, I don't know, get and display analytics data and similar stuff. So I guess that definitely this should be in a repository with its own logic. So let's try to close some folders here to make things a little bit better. Okay, so of course we'll expose the repositories via an interface. So let's create a new folder actually here in the domain layer. I have already a folder interfaces. Sorry for that. Okay. Here we have two services that we've created: a shortening service and a user agent service. And right now we would need to implement a new one, which would be add class user. Okay, and of course it should be an interface. And that should be it. Now, okay, what should actually this interface do? Or what should actually this repository define as a logic that we would, or that other parts of the application would need to implement in order to be on the safe side? So first of all, we would have the login process. The login process would actually need, let's say, let's assume that the user already exists, and the login process would actually need to verify, for instance, if the provided passwords or if the provided password matches with the password that we currently have in the database. So I would say that this would actually need, so we would of course need this behavior about logging in. The only thing is, what should we return from it? So when somebody tries to log in, I assume that, okay, the request comes into the front end and probably will inject the repository there, and then the repository should actually check probably using this password hasher if the passwords match, and then if they match, of course the user should be logged in. The only thing is, what's the core requirement for that? So I would say that what we need is I don't know, maybe returning a bool. Or no, I guess we would just return the user. So yeah, user, that's what we return. Of course, it doesn't know the user for now because we have to use this namespace. So this is what we return, and let's be explicit, and yeah, that would be actually, and probably everything will be async, so we'll return a task of user. And of course we need to add use system threading tasks to this, and what we would need here is just to have a string username, string password. And of course if we return null, then the login process was not correct. And if we think about the same way for logout, actually we don't need to implement anything in the repository, because this is really only a concern of the front end. So it doesn't really have any background domain logic in it. It's just that hey, you just logged out of the application, but on the back end actually this doesn't change anything. But another thing that we would have to do is a task, and we'll return here once again a user and sign up. Signing up would actually mean that we would need to add user to the database. So here, well, what we would need to do here is, I guess, just to get the user that we actually need to sign up. Okay, so this would actually be, I would say, similar to a create user, but in this case we call it sign it up because it's a signing up process. So somebody registers for our app, and then of course we save them in the database because we surely need to, but it's a sign up process. And then actually for now, let's assume that this is actually the only information or these are the only two things that we currently want to do, and for sure we'll extend this interface at a later stage, but right now I guess that's what we need in order to implement this functionality of users being able to sign up and log in and log out probably. So let's then go back here to our data access layer and add a new folder here that we'll call repositories. Okay, and let's add a new class here. And we'll call it user repository. Of course, since this is a repository, what we will need here is the data context, bring me data context like that, and then we will need a constructor, bring me data context, and we'll assign it to our field. Okay, that should do it. And of course, this one implements user repository. And of course, I don't think that the project is referenced, or it is referenced, so we just need to add here the using. So we would implement the interface here, login and sign up. Okay, so that would actually do it, at least for now. Of course, we need also to implement this. So let's take a look on how we can do that. So login actually means that we need to verify if we can find a user that has this username and this password. However, here we'll get the password in plain text, and of course we will have to hash it first in order to really check for that specific user. So in this case, let's try to do like this: var hashed password. I'm probably doing typos. Of course I'm doing hash password equals, or yeah, let's because in order to create a password hasher, we will have to get the first we would have to get the user. So yeah, let's also make this async, of course. And yeah, let's have it like that: var user equals ctx dot users dot where, and here of course I guess we'd have to use system.link for that, which is correct. So where the user, so in this case we look for username. Oh, sorry, it's u.username equals username. And let's maybe, I don't know, I guess that our username actually be, it shouldn't actually, well, or it should treat lowercase and uppercase letters the same way. So casing should not be a problem here. And in this case, to just make sure that, users don't really want to mess up with us and provide, I know, things like uppercase and lowercase, we will then just to-lower everything for now. Although we don't need to lower this, because we'll make sure that whenever we save the user to the database or when we change the username, we will try to actually, or we will save the username only in lowercase. Of course, probably later we'll add some more extensive validation to it, that it can only contain certain characters, like for instance only letters. But for now, let's not think about this type of things. So yeah, right now we try to get this user, and of course we want the first or default. And it should be the first or default async in Entity Framework Core, which should actually be fine. So this will return me a task of user, so we'll await this, of course. And yeah, this means that either I get a user or I get null. And I can do a very basic check here. If user equals null, then we'll simply return null, because we don't have this user. Okay, and then the next thing to do here is, okay, now we know that we have a user, then we can create a hasher, new password hasher, and of course that should only be in this namespace, and we'll pass in the user. And right now we have the hashed password. So what we can do here is okay, hasher dot hash password, and we provide the password. Okay, so this will return us a string, and then actually we don't even need to hash this, because if we go to password hasher, right now we can simply say verify password match, and this will return true or false, and here we have to provide the password to verify. So we don't even need to hash this this password that we receive, so we can just say verify password match. Okay, and here we can have another very basic condition check. If hash password, or if not equals hash password, return will return null right now. But I guess later we'll do some more sophisticated stuff, and we'll never return things like user or null. Will return responses that will contain the state of the operations, the object itself, like for instance in this case it would be a user, but also information about validations, about if we had problems, what exactly went wrong, so that consumers of this repository would actually be able to do something meaningful based on the information that we would be able to provide. But for now, I guess we leave it like this. And then if everything is then correct, then we can simply return the user, because it means that everything was checked correctly. So yeah, things should be fine. Good. Then signing up. My idea is right now, should we get here a user object, because that would mean that whoever actually, I don't know, would consume this repository would have to create this user first, and take care about, I don't know, maybe validation that we want to do, or things like that. And I don't really want to for this to happen in the application layer. So my question is, should we actually username, password, email. I guess this should be the only information that we would actually need to create a user. Because the phone number we can add it later. For instance, if we want to add two-factor authentication, the is verified. Well, for now we'll set it by default to true, but yeah, we could set it to false up until we are able to verify that user based on the email address. But I guess that's the only information that we actually need to signing up or to sign up a user right now. So I'm thinking here, instead of getting a user, we should go to the interface, of course, first. Where is the interface? In the domain. Where did I create the interface? I think I created it in a very, very wrong. Yeah, it's totally wrong, because I created the interface here. That's bad. Let's move it here. Okay. Yeah. Now it's better. So instead of getting here a user, what we want is a string username, string password, and string email. So that's actually everything that we want in order to sign up a user, at least for now. So let's go back to the repository, and of course we'll need here a string username, string password, and string email. Okay, so how should we do things right now? So first of all, we can do the following. For user equals new user. Then the ID we don't have to set. The EF core will take care of that, so it's not something that we would have to handle. And then we can set the username. It should be this one. We can set the password, or we can't set the password right now. We'll set the email like that. And of course we need to add a semicolon here, otherwise Visual Studio will complain about that. So now that we have created a new user, the next thing that we would have to do, but the problem here is right now, because when we create a new user, this user is actually totally new. So we can't really set the password right now, because we don't know the GUID. So we don't know exactly what salt we can use. But there are some things that we could do here for now. Var check username unique equals wait. Here of course we'll have this async. Okay, here we'll have a wait. Here then we'll have the context dot users dot where, and here we'll have the user name equals username dot lower, and then of course first or default async. Let's move this on a separate line. Let's also move this on a separate line if we started with that, and that should be it. So what we do here is actually we want to check if that username already is in the database, because we don't want to allow duplicates when it comes to username. And actually the username will also be here to lower, to make sure that casing is really not important. So what we do here is that if check username unique, so the idea is that this will be true. Maybe here check username exists. So so if check username exists would be equal null. So if it doesn't exist, this should be null. So let's maybe wrap this in some parentheses and let's negate this. So if check username unique equals null, what is the problem? Check username exists. Of course, we have changed that. But maybe we should just name this check username and here check username. That might make some sense, I guess. So if the check username is null or is not null in this case, then we will return null. Here we will eventually need to return an exception, but I guess we'll implement our own exceptions for this repository probably during next streams, because right now I just want to focus on the functionality, on the end-to-end functionality, and yeah, maybe we'll look later into how we can improve this app. So if we already have that username in the database, we just return null. So this means that we are actually not able to create that username. Then the next step that we could do is, for instance, when we have this information, like we have the username, we have the email, next thing that we can do is, I guess that's not optimal from a performance perspective, but at least for now, it should actually help us further. So when we have the username, so we know exactly that that username is not already taken. What we can do, I guess, is that we can simply already write this user to the database. So in this case, what we could do here is, okay, it would be context.users.add. And here now we'll have to add the user and then await context.save changes async. So this will save the user in the database, and after this operation we will have here a GUID. So then this means that what we can do next here is simply now we can use a password hasher to hash the password and write it once again to the database. Although I'm not sure, and I guess we will only be able to see this when we can actually create a user and try to debug this. But I think, I'm not sure, but I think that when we add a user to the context, it would add also the ID for that user, because in the case of GUIDs, it's actually Entity Framework Core, if I recall correctly, that actually generates those GUIDs. But I don't know if EF Core generates these IDs when you add that entity to the context to be tracked, or when you save it to the database. But I guess that's something that we will have to check a little bit later. Or if you know the answer to this question, then maybe just please let me know here. Don't be shy, and yeah, use the comment, of course. But for now, let's assume that we get the user ID only when we save that user to the database. And what we can do right now instead is that after we save this user, we will actually have the user ID here, because this is a reference type. So let's make it here hasher equals new password hasher, and we pass in the user. And then what we can do is for hashed password equals hasher dot hash password, and we provide the password. And actually we don't even need to use a new variable here, because we can say here user dot password, and it should be this one. And after we do this, actually what we can do here is we can just right now we have to update user, of course, because there is a new info that needs to be written to the database. So it will be context.users.update, and we just want to update one, which is this one. And then wait, we save the changes once again, save changes async. And maybe we look into this. I'm not sure, but maybe this would be a case where we can first create a, but no, because yeah, we'll have to look, or I'll have to look exactly into how the GUID gets generated by EF Core, because I'm fairly sure that in case of GUIDs, the generation of the ID is handled by EF Core. In case of int, it's actually handled by the database itself. Okay. And after we save the changes, well, then we can simply return the user. So this would be our sign up process, I would say. Okay. So what can we do here further? I guess that's a very basic implementation of what this repository should actually do. Although right now, when I think about this, when we sign up, there is actually one more thing to consider. It's not enough to actually just create the user, but we also have to create the user profile for that. Okay. And when we create a user profile, I guess we need to assign it to a certain user, or all the other information is not relevant in my point of view, or it could be added later by the user in the app. But for the sign up process, we just have to create actually this link between a user profile and a user. But for that one, we would have to create a user. Let me create a factory method here for that. So it would be a public static user profile, create user profile, and here in this factory method we get actually a new we get the user for which we want to create the profile. And what we can do here is return new user profile, and here user equals user. So that's very simple stuff. Should be like that. Okay, so then in our repository, let's go back to the user repository. Before we save all the changes here. So first, right now we have the user, we hash the password, and then what we also need to do here, I guess we can do this we can't do this directly here, is context dot user profiles dot add, and here we can use user profile dot create user profile, and we specify the user. And then when we save the changes, also the update should be done, but also this adding the user profile. So from this point on, we would actually have all the needed information about that specific user. And since we worked here with a user profile, I think right now, just a little bit, when we do the login, actually, do we want to return the user or the entire user profile? Because I think we should return the entire user profile for that user. That's at least the way I see it. Yeah, so let's change that once again. So I use a repository. So instead, when we are logging in, instead of returning a user, just return the user profile. And that actually makes more sense for the application, because the consumer of this method would like, well, to log in a certain user. But if the login is successful, then it's logical that what I would like to expect then, that I get the entire context actually for that specific user. So in this case, I will get the user profile back. So let's also update our repositories in this case. So when we log in, we just return a user profile. And here, most of the things that we have done here are actually the same, because first of all, we need to check based on the username to see if we find that user. Of course, if we don't find the user, then we return null. Then we would have to hash the password, of course. And of course, when we can verify that the passwords match, then, well, we are good to go. If they don't match, of course, we will return null. But otherwise, we won't just return a user, but what we will do is var user profile equals context dot user profiles. Okay, so I guess we should here look for profiles, user profile, where the user ID equals user.user ID. Okay, and here we want the first or default async. So let's move this on different lines so that it is easier to read. Okay, and of course we need to await this. So right now we want to include to get this user profile, but we also want to include user profile. We want to include the user because we want to have in the user profile also informations, or also we need to have an information about the user, and maybe we should also include and here we should include user short URLs, or how is that property? Rings, this is how we called it, of course. But I guess this is the then include. What is the problem here? Okay, because this is in that case the user itself, because okay, so no, yeah, of course, that makes total sense. Okay, so in this case we get user profile with all the necessary information, like information about the user and all the short URLs that specific user has, and actually we can just simply return this. We don't need to create a new variable for that. So yeah, we just return this, because if of course without assignment in this case, because if we don't find a user profile that matches this specification, that we actually then we return null. I guess we would need to think about ways how to do that, because we certainly need to add some more, or to create a context for the response of this repository that would contain more information, or several different information points. For instance, if I don't know, if we didn't find the user, if we didn't find the user profile, and things like that, because the consumers of this repository might really use this type of information to actually decide how to proceed, or to actually find out what went wrong and notify the user that well, probably he or she provided some information that is not really accurate. But yeah, I guess that's out of scope for today at least, but that's, I guess, something that we would really need to take care of. But right now, I guess that yeah, we should be good to go. Let's just rebuild this. So we have built the password hasher, and we have built a very basic repository for the user. Then of course, the next thing that we would have to take into consideration is, well, how can we actually implement this right now in our application? So we will need to kind of like implement this logic and the front end for this idea of signing up and signing in. Yeah, that's actually something that we will do just a little bit later. But right now we are headed for a very small break, but we will continue in 10 minutes. And as said, the main idea is right now to move to the front end and see how we can implement this idea of login functionality in our web application. So stay tuned, don't go anywhere, because we will resume shortly. Yeah, so we'll be back in 10 minutes. Okay, so we are back, and before we go and implement this whole idea of authentication and signing up, what we can actually do right now, I guess, is if we go to this page right now, so the ring me here, we see this counter with happy registered users, and we see that we don't have an user. For now, this value is hard-coded right now, but I guess we can implement it, or as far as I remember, it is hard-coded, but we can just look it up and, implement that counter. I guess that would be a good start, and then we look into how we can actually perform authentication here. So this should be then here in this index.razor, and here we see that in the count for the counter we have actually 0. So we actually need to implement that. Of course, they still give us this error. In this case, it just disappeared right now, so this is okay. Then actually the way that we could do this is actually very easy. Let's have this also public int registered users, and then what we can do here is also get this type of information. So registered users equals await, and see here we used actually the data context dot in this case it would be users. This is what we actually want to find out, and we just need to count them, actually count async. So that should do it, and then we can pass in this value here in our markup. So instead of passing the hard-coded 0, we pass in registered users. And I don't know, maybe one thing that we could do, but I'm not sure if we should do it today or right now. But if you want to do it right now, just maybe write me in the chat. But what we could do here, I guess, is maybe, I don't know, create a console application through which we can actually create a user, or I don't know, maybe in the startup here we could look at things like that. But I'm not sure that that I want to do it right now because I'm really not. We will have time to see exactly how this works once we have everything in place for that. Okay, let's go then one step further, and we will need to where is it? I guess I'll have to go on the other screen right now. So we would need to implement this. Just 1 second, because we have this template, this front-end template that I have purchased for this project, and I have to find it right now on my where is it? Resources should be right here, then UI kits, And then what was that? I guess it was this one. And let's open it in Visual Studio Code. And this is actually the front-end template that I have purchased. And here we should have sign in HTML, which is okay. And we have then here sign up HTML, which should also be okay. But if we go to this, let me just maybe briefly check this. So if we go here, so it would be, let me bring it to this screen. So this would be the sign in page. Okay, for now, we'll probably implement also login with social providers, but for now, I guess we will skip that. Then recover password. Of course, this doesn't lead anyway. We will have to think about how we can reset passwords. But this would be how this sign in should look like, I guess, or it would be something similar. And of course, then we have here the sign up page, which is this one. And in this case, well, we just need some information, and yeah, I guess we'll kind of see exactly how we can customize this actually to fit our needs. But I guess that's actually what we'll actually try to implement from the perspective of the front end. Okay, let's go then back here and let's go to Visual Studio. Good. Now, when it comes to the part where we want to authenticate users, even though, yeah, right now I guess we would have the sign up and the login. And when signing up, actually, I guess when signing up, we can create a regular Blazor component. And why I think about this is because you have to imagine here we are in Blazor. So when we work with Blazor, it doesn't really matter if it's Blazor WebAssembly or the server side. In our case, it's the Blazor server hosting model. But the idea is that, of course, you don't get a normal or regular, let's say, HTTP context like you do in regular MVC applications. And of course, at least in the server-side Blazor, the way it happens is that whenever you actually navigate to that specific page, like for instance here, an HTTP context is created right now. But then as long as you don't refresh the page, it's actually the same HTTP context. So if we would create a regular Blazor login component, that wouldn't help us very much because it would actually not trigger a refresh of the HTTP context. So that's why we can't really sign users directly in. And that's why in order to implement this login functionality, we would need to use a Razor page that would do that job and then redirect back, I don't know, maybe probably to the home page once the user is authenticated. But as I said, for the sign up part, it's actually we can take the information or the information that we actually want from that user, and then we can simply redirect the user to the login page. Of course, we could first, I don't know, maybe at some point we'll implement validation based on email and things like that. And this is when SendGrid will also come into place, and probably this is also one other thing where we can leverage the advantage of serverless computing and simply, well, use an Azure function for that. But right now the sign up component can actually, I guess, be the same or can be a regular Blazor component. And yeah, let's look into that. Okay. Okay, so let's create a new folder here for the sign up. Add new folder. Okay, and here we will add first, where is it? Add razor component, and we'll call this sign up. Sign up. And then the way I always do things is I don't want to have code and markup in the same file. I will create a code behind file, so that's easy to do. Just create a new class and name this class sign up.razor.cs, and I need to mark this as partial, and that's it. Okay, so what information do we need for the sign up? We would actually need, let's see, add class sign up model, because we would need this model in order to bind. And here in this sign up model, we would actually need two things: public string username set, public string password set. Then what we will need is public string email. And in order to do validation directly on Blazor, we can do this. We can say that all of them are required. So that should also be required, and that should also be required. Maybe we can specify some further things here on username. Here min length username should be, I don't know, at least, let's say 6 characters long, and we can also use a max length that would be, I don't know, how long should be the username. I guess 20 should be enough for username. And then for the password, of course here we will have to maybe use some regular expression later to make sure that we use strong passwords only. So, but for now, I guess making this required is okay. Let's just specify a min length here. Min length, sorry. So the minimum password length should also be 6, I guess, and the maximum password length should be, let's make it 22. I guess that should be okay. Good. So right now we have this very basic sign up model that we will use actually to bind to our front end, and it's actually what we did here, I guess. Yeah, which is the value for that one. And if we look in our component, what we have here is, where do we actually use that? Okay, here is a form group. Okay, because we have this URL shortener, this is actually what we have. So we have this form where we have this model set to the URL, and on valid submit, then we have this shorten URL method, and that should actually do it. Good. So we would have to do something similar also here. Okay. Let's go back to this sign up thingy, and let's go here to this razor part. If we go to the code behind file, let's think about, we would need to inject the, actually we don't need the data context in our sign up, we just need the repository. And of course we need to add the repository to our startup. Okay, so let's say services.add scoped, and what we want to do is I user repository and user repository. Of course you would need to add some additional usings, and that should be it. So this should add our repository, and then of course we can use it here to inject it. Inject. Of course we would need this here. We can even make this private, I guess. Private I user repository. Repo get set. The idea is that we need to inject in properties in Blazor. So this is why I used a property instead. It would be this one. And dependency injection should take care about injecting my user repository right now. Then what other thing we have here, I guess we can still make it private. And that would be a private sign up model. Let's call it model equals new sign up model. Okay. And that should actually do it, I guess, for what we need right now. Then one other thing that we would need is private. I guess it should return void, or it should return a task, I guess, because we'll use the repository. Private task, and what we'll do here is sign up. And yeah, what we would need here is, of course, actually we don't need anything, because we can take all the information directly from this model when we sign up. Of course, right now we have an error because we don't do much here, but we will change that very, very shortly. So let's right now go back to this front end part. Okay, so yeah, let's try to implement things. We already have this head part in the, although the head is here, I guess, a little bit different, but we'll look into how this really works. But the idea is that we already have this in the layout, so we won't have to take care about that. Then this is for the scroll to top button and for the preloader, and this is not what we actually need. And then we have here the sign in section, but why it is the sign in section here? And here account section, okay, things like that. Class container, account title. Okay, we have to see. This is the back to top. This is not something that we need necessarily. Okay. Okay, here they get the logo once again. I guess that this is something that we would I don't know, the logo we can simply leave it like that. Only that it would redirect, it would direct to something else. But we will see exactly how this how we'll implement that. But for now, I guess we can even leave this out. So let's create a div with this type of information, and we'll look into how this will work. Oh yeah, let's create this div, and then let's create this div with container inside. Yes, simply class equals container. That should do it. And then, as I said, this div, I guess for now we can just skip. That's really not interesting for me. Then we have this account wrapper, and the sponsor slider is also something that we won't need, I guess. Scripts are also loaded in the layout, so we don't have to take care about that. So this is actually then everything that we would need right now. Of course, we would need to kind of customize this a little bit, because we need to get information for all the things that we need in our model. So let's see exactly what we need here and what we don't actually need here. So here's the data background, account header. Let's get started. Yes, we can leave it like this. Sign in, and here is the sign in with Google. And we actually don't need this because we don't want to offer this option right now. Let's get started, and we can just remove this href, and we can remove this div, and then we need the account body. Then this is a sign up with your email. Here we can maybe say something else, something like, we need a few details first. Okay, then here we have form, and I guess we'll switch this to edit form component. Okay, that should be something like that. And let's take a look into how we did this here in the URL shortener. Okay, we have to specify the model and what should be or what we should do on valid submit. Okay, good. So let's try to replicate this also here in the sign up page. So sorry, we are still working on the markup. So here we have I don't know, let's say the model equals sign up model, I guess. That should be it. But that leads me to the class, and I don't need the class. How did I name the property? It's model. Okay, fair enough. So let's change that. Model. That should do it right now. And here on valid submit, and what method should we call? Sign up, I guess it's called. Yeah. So let's sign up. That should do it. And then we have this class form group. Here we would actually need what we would need here is we would need I guess we would need three such things. This try it out, yeah, we'll leave it for that. So yeah, we'll need three divs like that, because first of all, your username. Okay, then this would be your password and your email. Then we have to see what we would have here, your email's ID, but here what we would need to do is a bind value, and this should be bound to model dot what is the first one? The first one is the username, and the placeholder would be enter your username. And let's maybe, I don't know, go on a different line. Okay, I guess that should do it. And the next one, it would be your password. Here, enter your password. And then here on sign up, you would have once again bind value, sorry. And we would need to bind here in this case to our model.password. Let's once again go on a new line. And here is exactly the same thing. Enter your email. Yeah, we can leave it like this in this case. The placeholder, and yeah, let's go on a different line, and once again bind value, and that would be in this case our model, and it should be the email. And then what I don't know exactly, but I guess Google can help us, edit form component validation errors. Make sure that we can display that, or display the messages. So yeah, we have this here, then we have data for forms, and here yeah, we have, I guess, to put data annotation validator. So yeah, we have this type of components here. Okay, I guess we can just copy that, and that should be actually right on the top of the form, I guess, something like that, because these should be components. Of course, one other thing, this should be a routed component. So this is why we'll add here a page, and that would be sign up. Or what is the problem with that one? Let's see. This page, yeah, should be similar to this one. Probably we need it like that, or yeah, right now it should be fine. So this will be actually the URL for our sign up page, which should actually be fine. And here we have this button, try it now. Let's say create an account. Or maybe let's start ranking. Okay, and then here we have this pen, already have an account, and in that case we just want to redirect to we don't have it so far, but we'll try to redirect to login. I'm not exactly sure how that would be supposed to, how that is supposed to work, but we can when we'll try to see if this works, we can also do other type of stuff, like when you click on it, we can actually use the Blazor navigation manager to actually navigate to a different page. And the reason why we probably will need to do that is that the login page, as said, will be implemented actually with Razor page, so not Blazor component, because you would have to capture the entire process. and then be able to set the cookie basically for that request, and then do the redirect to the Blazor part. So yeah, this is why usually when it comes to Blazor, we will have to implement the authentication using a Razor page and not a Blazor component. But that's actually the cool stuff about a Blazor and .NET 5, that yeah, you can actually combine them in one application. You're not let's say bound to use only one specific technology in an application. You can basically even combine them, which is, in my opinion, very cool. But yeah, let's go back to this sign up page that we already have right now. So what we would need to do here is simply implement what should happen when somebody clicks on sign up. So the idea is that if there are validation errors, we actually won't get into this method at all, because here we have this binding on valid submit. So as long as the inputs are not valid, messages will be displayed in the front end, and the user would simply have to get rid of all those errors. And once the model is correct or is valid, only then actually when we hit the button, we will this method will actually be triggered. So by the time we get here, we are sure that our model is or has actually all the properties on a valid state. So we can assume that. The question is, what should we do here in this sign up page? Of course, we would need, I don't know, to var user profile equals, let's get the repo, but let's not call this user repo. Well, let's call it user repo to know exactly what type of repo this is. User, of course, that should be async. Var user, and we should await this. Await user repo dot, and here we would have. Why is this? We have sign up. Sorry, I just missed that. So in the sign up, we would have to provide model dot, what's the first? The username, password, and email, I guess. Let's just check it. Username, password, and email. Yeah, correct. Username, model dot password, model dot email. Okay. If there are some problems, we would probably be able to hook into the validation part of that form and maybe push some errors, so that the user might be able to see what happened if something went wrong. But for now, the idea is that what we get here is maybe this user profile. It's strange a little bit. Let me just. Okay. User profile is in domain models. Okay. Right now, I guess that I don't know this sign up page of domain model users. Okay, that's domain models user. But why do we receive a user back? Because this is not what the sign up should actually do. Okay, the sign up, yeah, it's correct. So the sign up gets back a user. The login would get back a user profile. So that's okay. Good. So if this is null, then well, we will have a problem, and we'll see how we will be able to deal with that. But for now, let's make a basic if check. If user profile, it actually is not a user profile, it's a user. If user user pro, if user not equals null, then what we want to do is actually use the navigation manager and navigate to the login page after the sign up was successful, because the user would need to sign in, of course, or to log in. And I'm not sure exactly how we can use that, but Google will help us. So Blazor navigation manager, I guess that's what we look for right now. ASP.NET Core routing. So let's see, endpoint routing integration, that's okay. Route templates, that's something that we have in that in the router component in the app, but that's not something that is interesting for us right now. The page, how you can navigate to certain components, then route to components from different assemblies. That's actually cool. But routing parameters, yeah, we can pass in such type of parameters, but I don't think we need one. We just route constraints, routing with URLs that contain dots. Okay. Catch all route parameters. Navlink component in place of HTML hyperlink elements. Okay. Yeah, that would be a good that would actually be something that we would use for that form if you want to get directly from the front end to the login page. But then URI and navigation state helpers. Okay, I guess that's what we need. Navigation in C# code, navigation manager provides the event and methods shown in the following. URI gets the current absolute URI. Okay, base URI gets the base URI with a trailing slash. Navigate to client-side routing. Okay, but why is the client-side routing bypassed? And the browser is forced to load the new page from the server whenever are okay, but they don't want this. Converts a relative URI to an absolute URI, base relative path. Okay. But what I am not really, or what I don't like here, is that it's navigate to. It actually navigates to a specified URL if, or okay, so navigate to the specified URI if force load is true. So only if we set this to true, then the client-side routing is bypassed and the browser is forced then to do a reload. Okay, then we can use this navigation manager, and I guess we can simply inject this navigation manager like here. Okay, so let's do that. Let's add that here, because let's have all the injects at the same point. Inject private navigation manager. Let's call it just navigation to be shorter. And that should be it. So if user not equals null, what we would like to do here is redirect it to the login page, which is not implemented so far, but we'll implement it soon enough, I guess. So what we can do here is simply navigation, navigate to, and here we specify, I don't know, something like this, login, and I guess we can say here bool force load equals false. So by default it's false. So unless we want it to be true, then we don't really need to set that. Okay. Okay, and then the problem is we don't really return a task here. we can then, I don't know, maybe something that is not really recommended. Let's make it void. Okay, still complaining about something. Sign up member names cannot be the same as their enclosing. Okay. Yeah, the problem is that we named the class sign up and we named this method sign up, and yeah, that's a problem in Blazor apparently. So let's call this sign up user. First, we would have to go then also in the markup and sign up user. That would be the correct one in this case. Okay, let's see if we have errors. I guess there's no error. And maybe the one thing that I would like to still do is go in the main layout. Because in the main layout, I guess we should have something. We have the header. But in the header, I actually deleted everything in that specific header. Okay. Let's go back here. And let's look a little bit in the header of, where is it? The index page. And what I'm looking for right now is a header class, container, header wrapper, logo. I guess we have this. Yeah, and this is something that, and then we have this unordered list, which is menu. Okay, so this is actually what we are missing right now. So let's go back here. Oh no, we have that. We just have to, okay, but the unordered list is empty. So yeah, the only thing that we would need to do here is do this thingy here. So let's add a list item, but let's, as they said, let's use the navlink component to navigate. And where we want to navigate here, yeah, maybe we'll have a home, but no, we have this sign up button. Okay, and that would let me just look at the documentation again. Where was this navlink? Okay, navlink href my page. Component in place of HTML hyperlink when creating navigation links. Behaves like a element except it toggles an active CSS class based on whether its href matches the current URL. Active class helps user understand which page is the active page. Okay, that's kind of nice, but it actually really helps us only when we build the menu to see which one is active. But that's actually maybe something that we need. But I guess maybe we deleted the default CSS in Blazor, so I'm not sure if that would help. So we want to navigate here to sign up page. Let's class equals how was it? Nav link. That should do it. So right now we should have we should have on the layout this one. And let me go here to sign up. Let me put a breakpoint here, because right now I would like to run this and see if everything goes well. So the browser opens. So right now we should see here a button for sign up on the top. If we don't get an error, of course, which is always an option. But why doesn't... Okay, we have this sign up. Okay, this button is definitely ugly, but I'm really bad at this type of stuff, and yeah, we'll yeah, they I guess that's correct here, but the only problem here is that we're actually using the layout. We're actually using the main layout here, and that's not really helpful. But let's get started. Let's start ranking, and yeah, here I get this username field is required, the password field is required, and things like that. So let's give a username, let's give in a password, but yeah, problem is it's plain text, so let's change the input type to password in that case. Your password input type password, and actually here for this one I guess we have input type email, and that should help us a lot. So let's run it again. I don't think I'll spend time in fixing that problem with the CSS part. I guess for now it's okay that we have that form that it actually works, and we'll see what we'll do later with that. Because the problem is that the sign up page and this home page here, they have two different layouts, and I guess what we can do is we can create a layout for sign up and login, and then of course we can create this layout, and of course we can specify for each component what layout it should use, and actually that's what we're gonna do, I guess. But let's try this out. This would be the username, password. Let me, I don't know, take a password. That should be this one, and your email, let's use this email. Let's start ranking, and we see that we are here in this model right now. Sorry, in this one, in this breakpoint, and here the where is the model? It has all the necessary information, and then if we go here, okay, step into. Do you want to continue being notified when this automatic step over happened? No, let me check. So we go here in this repository. Then we create a new user. We check if the username exists. And here user is null, so it doesn't exist, of course. Then we skip this return null. Then we add the user to the context. And I'm curious. Right now, I go to user. User doesn't have, the user ID is like that. It doesn't have a password, which of course is to be expected right now. What I want to check is after I save the changes, or now I added the user to the context. Let me see. Does it have a GUID? Yes, it has. So this means that right after I added the user to the context, what I can do, let me stop debugging here. I don't need to save changes. We just add the user to the context, then we create the password hash, then we update the user, and then we add a new user profile for that user, and only then we save changes to the database. I guess that that would make sense like that. So let's run the application again. Okay. mean, we still should have 0 users because we haven't saved anything to the database so far. So yeah, that should be it. So still 0 users. Let's go to sign up. Let's get started. Once again, username, password, then your email. Let's use this one, and let's start ranking. So again, we are here in this method. Then let's go here. Then we create a new user. Check username. Okay, we don't have the user. Then we add user to the context. We create a new hash for that user for the password, and this is the password right now, so you can't really see it. That's the base 64 version of this hash. And then I have to update the user because it has also a password. Then I want to add a user profile that I create from scratch, and only then I save changes. So yeah, let's save them. Let's have a user here in the database. Okay, and I'm not sure exactly what happened here because wait, save changes. Okay, things got a little bit weird. Let's go back to the home page. And here we don't have a registered user. So we still don't have a registered user. So this means that something went wrong. Something went wrong here, but I don't know exactly what. Okay. Because here we actually, or simply, okay, we get some exception here. Let's take a look at this. An error occurred while updating the entry. See the inner exception for details. The insert statement conflicted with the foreign key constraint. User profiles, users, user ID. The conflict occurred. Okay, in the table users column user ID, the statement has been terminated. Okay, but why did that happen? While updating the entry, see the inner exception. Okay. User profiles, users, user ID. I guess they tried to add the user profile first. I'm not really sure about what happened, but let me use the SQL Server Management Studio. Let's take a look to what we actually have in the database, and probably that's the point where we'll finish today, because I don't think I have the energy to start looking and debugging this problem right now. So probably this is what we'll do next time. But I want to check first if we have something created. So if we have a user profile or if we have the user ID, I just want to check if we have anything created, but I would assume not, because okay, we have tables here. So let's see users. Probably users was we don't have anything here. Of course. And let's see user profiles. Okay, it's also empty. Probably they try to do this in in the same kind of statement, I guess. Yeah, let's So I guess if we look at our domain model right now, but I guess we should look into this on model creating, because what we have here is, oh no, that's actually nothing here. We have a user that has this type of properties, and we have a user profile that actually is a user. Let's try something. Let's update. Let's save changes here first. And then we add user profiles, and we add this user profile that contains that specific user. And let's see if this works. So let's look into this. Let's go to sign up. Then let's once again create username. That should be the username. Let's have a password. And then let's have this email address, and let's get started. Of course, we got in here, and then I guess we had an error again. Yeah. Update. Okay, database operation. Expected to affect 1 row, but actually affected 0 rows. Data may have been modified or deleted since entities were loaded. Okay, that's yeah, I definitely have to look into this, and I don't have the energy to do it right now. So yeah, I guess that that would be it for today. Thank you very much for watching. I'm very happy that that you took part here, and sorry that I missed the comments. I was so focused onto what I was doing that I really forgot to check the comments, and really I am sorry for that. But thank you very much for commenting, and yeah, I'm glad that that you enjoy this type of videos. That, well, this is really live coding without no preparation, with problems that might come up like just happened, but after 2 hours and a half of streaming, I'm a little bit tired, and I guess I'll continue to work on this tomorrow, and I'll stream it, of course, most probably. So yeah, thank you very much for watching once again. Please stay safe, and yeah, let's meet again then the next days. Thank you very much.